The Nashville Predators went down early and came back against the Wild, but there was no happy ending this time.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for making us your first stop of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. I want to start off by shouting out all of our Locked On Predators podcast community and our everydayers who tune in to chat all things Preds every day. My name is Jack Williams, and I am the Nashville Predators beat writer for the Hockey News, exhaustingly, as it was another 6-5 results on Wednesday against the Minnesota Wild, this time in overtime and not in favor of the Nashville Predators, it being a 6-5 loss to the Wilds. A few days ago, it was a 6-5 result in favor of the Predators against the St. Louis Blues. They had another comeback in this game. Third time that they've met the Wild this season, the third time it's gone to overtime in a second straight 6-5 result. And like I said, it was another game where the Predators came back, had a miraculous comeback, got competitive with it, got into overtime, and then going back to what we saw on the road trip here, they fell apart in overtime. They did not look good in overtime. And we're going to go through this game, mainly them digging out of a hole again, the defensive woes, because essentially we need to get real and talk about this being a main focus at the trade deadline, because it was not a good game for the defense. And then Washington is going to be one last chance for this team to prove themselves before the break and the deadline. So we'll jump into it right now. This is the 38th time this season the Nashville Predators have given up the first goal of the game. Thank you to Nick Kaiser for that stat. That's crazy to think of. 38 times the Predators have been behind this year. And good chunk of them they've been able to come back from, but it wasn't this one here. They fell into a 2-0 hole early, then it became 3-1, and Matt Boldy had the first 3 goals for the Wild in this game. He had a hat trick 13 minutes into this game. A hat trick goal came in a really strange way. It was a shot by Boldy that kind of lobbed into the air. Nick Blankenburg swatted at it. It went into Michael McCarron. The puck dropped in front of McCarron. Boldy the entire time is following his shot. And as the puck drops in front of McCarron, he just taps it and goes right in. So, I mean, it was just kind of a comedy of errors tonight, specifically for Nick Blankenburg. He had another goal tonight here that we'll explain here later on, where he played a role in it, but it was more so the Wild's goal and less so the Predators' goal, unfortunately. He had the worst impact in this game as well. His stat card, his hockey stat card, was at negative .467, and that's abysmal. That's really, really bad. But walking further through this game, the Wild jumped up to a 2-0 lead. Then it was 3-2-1 as Philip Forsberg scored on the power play, putting away a Roman Josi rebound to make it a 2-1 game. And suddenly the Predators are back into it. Boldy scores 3-1. Then the Predators get back on the power play. Steven Stamkos scores from that sweet spot on the right side. They've been able to lace up and really get that one-time connection really going, and he shot there from the right side, got that one-time shot going, went in. He now passes Mario Lemieux for the most career power play goals with 237. He's currently tied with Brendan Shanahan. Suddenly the Preds are on a little bit of a tear now. It's 3-2. Erik Haula ties it up on a weird goal. There were a lot of strange bounces in this game, and this was one of the stranger goals I've ever seen before. It was in tight corners. Jonathan Marchessault was beyond the net. Essentially, he's trying to come up close, whip the puck out to the front, and try to get someone connected there. Well, Erik Haula was right on the goal line at the time, and Marchessault did that move where he tries to whip it into the slot in front of the net. It went up. Haula deflected it away to where it went off of Philip Gustafsson's back, the goaltender, and went into the net, and the game's tied 3-3. Again, with this team, any way you can take it, they're going to go with it. And it went in, and the game's tied 3-3. Then early in the period, second period, again, there were 6 goals, I should mind you, in the first period of this game. It was ridiculous. And the Predators came back from being down 2 twice to tie it. Then Luke Evangelista gives the Predators their first lead of the game. In the second period, he puts away Steven Stamkos, rebounds. Stamkos had, I think, like 2 or 3 points tonight. Another sound game for him. Then the Wild tie it later in the second, and this is a shot that Vladimir Tarasenko just throws on net, and it goes off of Nick Blankenburg. He was not available after the game, but Roman Josi was. And it was asked about this too, about Blankenburg and the fact that he had 2 goals that were Wild goals credited to that went off of him. And Roman Josi said, "We love Blanks. He's been massive this year. He's worked hard this year, and he just had a bad night." And, as somebody who's been a big fan of Nick Blankenburg this year, I'm going to chalk it up the same way as well. He just had 2 unfortunate bounces. More so the first goal than the second. First goal is ridiculous when you're just trying to swat up into the air, get rid of the puck. What are the odds that when you're swatting this up, it goes into your teammate, drops, and the guy who originally shot this is following the puck the whole time, just comes up and puts it in? That's extremely unlucky. And then just so happens the second goal just went off of him on a shot on net. That happens. It was not a great night for Nick Blankenburg, but he has been so good this year. And we'll get into it. We'll get into the defense here. Then Tarasenko, that was the leading goal. So it is 5-4 now that Roman Josi ties it. And now we're tied up at 5s. Now, in overtime, the Predators did look better than the Bruins and Devils game, essentially meaning they got through the first minute of overtime. They even made it into the final minute of overtime, which was a treat. But it was just, and I'm going to get on a tangent here, y'all. It was just more of what we've been seeing, essentially, of the Predators just making dumb plays in overtime and it leading to just they're just not being aware of what's going on at the ice. What had happened was they got caught in the middle of a change, just not aware of what's happening at the ice at all. It springs a 2-on-1 is Kirill Kaprizov, who is one of the most highly paid players in the NHL right now, if not has the highest, most yearly contract right now, makes a long pass up to Matt Boldy, who has been electric the whole night. It's a 2-on-1 and 3-on-3 overtime with Boldy and Spurgeon. Boldy makes the pass over to Jared Spurgeon, and he puts it in the net, and the game's over. It's just more of what we've seen, essentially, to where this team just can't play in overtime, essentially. And they were on a good run for a bit in the middle of the season there, where they were winning a handful of overtime games, going through, and they won that game against the Wild in overtime as well. And they had these results pouring up, but lately we've just seen a team that just can't play 3-on-3 hockey. They cannot play overtime hockey because they are slow and they're awful at possessions, essentially. They cannot get the puck for the life of them. That's how they lost in 15 seconds to the Bruins. And then against the Devils, they had one good look. It was a bad pass from Philip Forsberg, who essentially, when he made that bad pass, I'll call him out, he gave up on the play against the Devils. That allowed Nico Hischier, again, a number 1 overall pick and the captain of the Devils, to just sprint down the left side of the ice and score. Tonight, it was just a game where they could not get the puck on their stick at all, had a lapse in judgment, and the Wild took advantage of it. This is a good team. This is a team that has finally passed the Stars for second in the Central Division. This is a team that's getting hot right now and has been good all years. You have guys like Kirill Kaprizov, and I got to get the Hughes brother right, Quinn Hughes on this roster too. You have veterans on this roster as well. This is a team that seems like it can never put it together, but is having a good general regular season. This is a good regular season team, and the Predators just fell asleep in overtime. They are continuously falling asleep in overtime. That's what we've been seeing a lot lately. And it's getting to the point where I'm getting tired of asking Brunette about it, because it's more so, oh, well, and you hear it from the players too. Oh, well, overtime is a coin flip. But you look consistently bad out there. Constantly. You can't defend. You can't drive. What are you good for out there, essentially? And letting UC Saros hang out to dry, essentially, and do all the work and pray you can get to a shootout and have a chance, because they have not lost in a shootout this year. And essentially, overtime feels like them just hoping and praying that they can get through overtime to a shootout. But one of the other main focuses of this game, and I'll talk about some quick quotes here, is that Brunette liked the way the team plays. It's just about the consistency, and it's just been a slow start. And then this whole the whole thing of the slow starts, because it's a fair point. Nick pointed it out, saying it's the 38th time they've given up the first goal of the game, and they've been doing it a lot lately. And they had that miraculous comeback on Tuesday. I say Tuesday, I meant Monday earlier in the episode. And he said, "Oh well, we've talked about this at nauseum." And then you have Roman Josi saying, "Well, we shouldn't be talking about this anymore, and we just need to do it." Essentially, well, do it. Like this, I've said this so many times. I should get it tattooed on my forehead. This is not feasible at all. You want to be a playoff team, and I've said this to so many people in the press box. They've said it back to me. It's been an agreed thing. This does not look like a playoff team at all. Because a playoff team does not go down over and over again. It has to dig themselves out. You know who does that? A Cinderella story in March Madness. And those teams aren't supposed to win. The NHL playoffs are not March Madness in the sense you don't really see Cinderella runs happen at all, or not as much. The teams that are going to be good are going to get there. The teams that are basically in the top three in their divisions, those are the ones that are going to get to the cup final and win cups. I don't know what this is. And I think I've said it before in this cast. The San Jose Sharks look like a playoff team. I have not watched the LA Kings enough. I can't say how much they look like a playoff team. The Utah Mammoth look like a playoff team. In my opinion, those are your two wildcard teams now. The Ducks look too. They could be competing for third in the Pacific Division. This does not look like a playoff team because going down early and just giving up everything and putting on a yard sale in front of your net and letting everything go in. Have you guys watched the Mighty Ducks? It's essentially like that scene in the Mighty Ducks where Goldberg is standing in front of the net because they're losing so badly. So he goes off to the side and just says, ushering in here, just go shoot the puck, go score the puck. Because that's what this team looks like early in games in all the leads that they're giving up. And that is just not feasible. It's not. And the whole, these games are important and us to get the playoff drives, you're killing yourself every game when you do this. And Andrew Brunette wants to talk about the consistency of this team and that they have the fight and they have the offensive power to really get their game going. Oh, but it takes a second. You need to figure this out now. Really need to figure this out now. Because we'll talk about it in one last chance. This Washington game will set the tone for what happens at the trade deadline. There's a freeze going on these next 2 weeks, of course, completely. They can't do anything on paper, but that doesn't mean management isn't talking. And by the time that's over and the trade deadline comes around, the begging and showing anymore is not going to be worth anything because management will have it set. And if this team wants to continue some sort of playoff, wherever, or like Michael McCarron said, they want to stick together, they need, against this Washington game, they need to have a strong start completely. But we're not talking about Washington. We're still talking about Minnesota. And there was guys that said, like Roman Josi, I don't want to talk about this, or Brunette saying, oh, we've talked about this ad nauseum. But then you have guys like Marchessault saying, we can't keep doing this. And Luke Evangelista saying, we could have had a better result if we didn't start like this. And guys owning up to it, to where you have your captain saying, oh, well, we need to stop talking about it and just see it happen. And, maybe we just need that. No, address it and do it, essentially. And yes, the comeback effort is impressive. It's very, very impressive. But similar to the beginning of the year where the penalty kill was carrying everything, the penalty kill was so good, let's make our own hoodies. You can't live and die on that at all. That is just, it's, again, forehead tattoo. It's not feasible at all. One positive I have out of here, other than the comeback, in my opinion, this was a point earned more than lost in overtime because they had no business being in this game early on in the first period. They clawed their way back into this, forced overtime, and even in a loss where they looked really bad in overtime, you still got a point out of this. So, you know what? I'll put that in the earned category today. There you go. You win one over on me. But when we come back, we're going to take an ad break here. We're going to talk about the defense, because I have a lot to say on it. I always have a lot to say on the defense, but it looked really bad tonight. It's looked really bad over the last few games. And some of the blame goes towards the goaltending right now, but at the same time, it's just not. In my opinion, there's just not support coming in for the guys in net. But we're going to take a quick ad break, and then we'll talk about the defensive woes. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidate faster. If I needed to hire someone for the show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I needed. Real experience, not just resume buzzwords. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored Jobs boost your posts to the people who best match your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show get a $75 sponsored job credit and to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. So my favorite topic now is the defense. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but I saw on Twitter that there was somebody blaming most of the struggles lately on UC Saros and Justus Onanen and had the numbers to back it up. And then you had two other notable people come in and say, hey, that comment is wrong. And I agreed a little bit more of that, saying these two goalies are facing some of the best offenses in the league right now. They are not getting the support in front of them that they should be getting. And this is why these numbers are blown up a little bit more. And I asked after the game, and it wasn't really answered because I think they're just getting irritated of answering these questions a little bit more. But I asked, hey, I'm going to ask Andrew Burnett, hey, you've mentioned a lot that the guys are hurting for UC Saros and Big Juice essentially because they're both getting aired out to dry a lot in these games. I mean, like, I'm trying to think of the examples recently. I mean, the last game against the Blues, UC Saros is pulled, and then Justus Onanen goes in. Another game, UC Saros is pulled, or Big Juice is pulled. And then you had tonight where UC Saros is kind of aired out a little bit in the beginning of the game, and then they get back into it, and then you have him making a 30-plus save performance and end up losing the game. And I asked, oh, well, are you guys hurting that you're basically letting your goalie air out? I didn't say that, but I said, are you guys hurting essentially and seeing that the goals he's letting in and essentially getting, pulled and all of this and the losses? And he's like, oh, well, we're a team, and then kind of went the long way around with not answering it. So it should hurt especially for the defenseman that your goalie, because that's a position with a lot of pressure, and UC Stars has been so important to everything this team has done this year that it should bother them. It should make you sad. It should be mad that this goalie is just getting mistreated and he's working his butt off every game. And it's caused the defense has been awful in front of UC Saros and Justus Onanen, except for two players. And I'll brush over that because we need to get into everything else. And I talk about every episode about how good Nick Blankenburg and Roman Josi are, and I won't elaborate on it anymore because we know that Nick Blankenburg had a bad night. Let's chalk it up as that. He just had a bad night. Everybody has a bad night. Most of these defensemen have a bad night every night, but it was just a particularly bad night for Nick Blankenburg. Two of the other negative outputs that had the largest negative output, according to Hockey Stat Cards, which you've talked about on this podcast before, were Nick Perbix and Nick Hague, who had Perbix had a minus 1.85 output and Hague had a minus 2.24. Now, Hague just joined the lineup. I don't know how many times we need to talk about him joining the lineup and giving leeway a little bit more because he is consistently injured. And yeah, the main issue I kind of put together with this and watching some of the goals a little bit more, this Minnesota team's very fast. They jump on stuff really slow, really fast, very quickly, and that's how they're able to score a lot. They're getting in front of the defense or behind them very fast and just catching them off guard. This defense is very slow, and the reason why Roman Josi and Nick Blankenburg have been so good this year is because they're fast. They have speed, they have offense, they have the talent that's able to keep up with this. And it goes along this whole thing of Barry Trotz of, oh, we need big guys, essentially, and it's Smashville, and we need big guys on defense to hit hard. That is not the way hockey is anymore. There needs to be speed in that back group on the blue line now, because this is a league molded around the idea of what Cale Makar is, essentially, and that you need your defensemen to be fast and step up offensively. You see Nick Blankenburg doing as much as he can there, and he has a grittiness to his game, and Roman Josi has embodied that completely. This whole size thing doesn't work anymore. It worked in 2011. It maxed out in 2017. It does not work in 2026. You need defensemen that can move their butts, because Nick Hague cannot skate at all. Nick Perbix is not very fast at all. Adam Wilsby and Nick Barron are Justin Barron, excuse me. I'm so tired, y'all. It's a 112 right now. Are decently speeded, but again, they just don't offer anything to this lineup. Adam Wilsby got into a fight with Vinny Hinostroza tonight. I don't know why. Maybe to amp up the bench because they were losing, and they just got, I think it was right after the hat trick or something like that. And he got his butt beat. He got his butt beat real bad. I'm missing anybody in this lineup. And then the guys they call up, like Andreas Englund doesn't add anything to this lineup. Brady Shea, he's getting progressively better. I don't think he's necessarily an amazing all-star that was promised, but I think he's better, and he's worth a little bit more, in my opinion, than some of the other guys I just mentioned. But it's the skating. It's so bad by the defensemen in the back end with some of these guys. And that was the main issue in overtime, is that they just can't keep up, and that is why these other teams are smoking them in possessions. These defensemen who are supposed to be the guys that are supposed to play the body, do that risky move there in defense, play the body, make the poke check, be able to keep up with them, get the puck turned over, and start creating offensive chances. The defensemen on this team, except for Roman Josi, can't do that. And that's why the Predators are getting dog walked in overtime. At the deadline, in my opinion, you need to retool the defense completely, because I think that is what's off of the step completely. And then you need to make at least one tweak on the fourth line, in my opinion. And retooling the defense means, I think you trade as much as you can, other than Josi and Shea, because Josi is just, it would be a sin not to let this man retire here. And he is unbelievable, playing unbelievable right now. And of course his contract will let it. That Shea contract, you have to be, I don't know what you have to be in order to accept that contract, because it's ridiculous. But other than those names, trade Nick Blankenburg, because he has a lot of good worth in the market, and you could get a good player back. You got to get rid of Wilsby. You got to get rid of Barron. And then you need to find a way to offload Perbix or Hague, two guys who were supposed to be a part of this. Oh, we fixed the defense in free agency and have just not done anything. And again, I've mentioned this so many times. Yes, you can say Hague's been injured and stuff. But again, as somebody who came from Vegas, he didn't do much there. And Perbix, again, has just been invisible on the ice. You need to find some sort of speed and deep that add a scoring element to the depth of this defense a little bit more, because the size just doesn't do it. And then briefly touching on the fourth line, as I said, Cole Smith or Michael McCarron got to go. They that you need, again, that's a speed problem there. That's a stick handling problem there. You need a little bit more offensive touch. I was explaining to Russell Venozzi tonight. I think they need at least just one guy that can produce something down there, because those guys can't produce anything other than penalty minutes. I'm sorry. That's what it is right now. Michael McCarron down the middle, and when your team has a depth problem, he is not adding any sort of depth down the middle other than hitting guys and fighting and getting in front of the net and parking it there. Cole Smith is a good boost on the penalty kill, but you can really get that anywhere. And then I don't know what you do with Tyson Jost in that in my opinion. I think they just like it for the fact that they have an extra guy that can throw in and out, and that's fine if you can hold on to him. He doesn't have a very big contract. And then Matthew Wood, he has a lot of potential, but God, he needs to work on his skating abilities. He was so slow tonight, and I know I'm being so negative right now, but I am just calling it how I see it, y'all. He needs to, I don't know if he needs to be with a skating coach or what, or needs to go back down to Milwaukee. He just could not skate out there. His skating skills are so slow. And like I said, a month ago, I was a big perpetrator when they were benching him. I'm like, why are they doing this? This makes no sense. It kind of makes sense now in just benching him, but with young guys like that, the healthy scratching, that's where I get confused with young guys. And they're like, oh, they need to watch the game. No, you need to get them playing. And if you think they're not going to offer anything, then send them back down to Milwaukee and bring the vets that are down there up to, where are we at? Nashville. It's just, period. Putting it all together, you need to get rid of this traditional Barry Trotz image of a team, because it does not work now. You need speed. You need scoring. Size, this is not a size game anymore. Build, height, that doesn't really get you much nowadays unless you're a goaltender. That is the only way, in my opinion, I think we're like, height and size gets you somewhere now, because goalies are really big nowadays for some reason. But you just got to retool the defense. I think that's what's off from a step. And you acquire like one guy in the fourth line or two, maybe, that can amplify that scoring depth more. And I think you have your pieces together that will allow you to rip off kind of a tear a little bit there. But that wraps up my rant on the defense. I'll talk to you guys real quick about the Everydayer Club. So thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Predators with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonpredators.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. When we come back, we will wrap it up with a little bit more ranting. That is about how the Predators have one last chance to really prove themselves to management before we have a long pause. And by the time the pause ends, a lot of plans will be starting to go into place. That conversation is coming up after the break. So one last chance here on Thursday against the Washington Capitals. It is the final game before the 2-week Olympic break. That will be Roman Josi, Eric Halla. They've said this so many times, and I can't remember them off my top of my head as I was naming them off. Roman Josi, Eric Halla, UC Saros, Philip Forsberg. Yes, those are the players as well. The Predators head athletic trainer is also going to be on Team USA staff. I'm going to pull up the name just to make sure he's getting the recognition he deserves, because he deserves it, because that is a big deal. Kevin Morley, head athletic trainer for the Nashville Predators, will be on the athletic training staff for Team USA, which is awesome. But this Washington Capitals game is the final game that the Predators have to show what to management, what kind of team they are, what they're capable of, this group, and what tweaks that management truly has to make to them. In my opinion, in the sense of the trade deadline, those final 5 games before the trade deadline, in my opinion, don't really matter because I think management will just have their mind made up unless the standings are so tight they need a larger sample size. And Andrew Brunette talked a little bit about this game, saying, maybe they were looking a little bit forward towards the break, and this is why this game was so on and off, essentially. And we still have games that we need to lock into. These are important, but he's like, I think on both sides, both teams might have been looking a little bit far. Now, we're going to go over the trends we've seen lately. Poor defense. Essentially, just the depth is not good. We've seen some really top-heavy, strong offense from guys like Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, Luke Evangelista, just kind of a dark horse in all of this and what he's been setting up, and he's just been dishing out goals left and right. He may not be the guy finishing it off, but sorry, just yawn there. He's the guy setting up a lot of these plays too. Michael Bunting has just been a great lift on the third line there. And then we're starting to see Eric Holla and Jonathan Marchessault move a little bit more. The offense is in a good flow right now, as we've seen the fact that they have scored 11 goals in 2 games. The offense is in a very, very good, sound place right now. It's the defense that things are really slipping through. The goaltending has been kind of subpar, but when you have your goaltenders, I guess if you want to fool around with the on and in contract, you can at the trade deadline, even though you just signed it. And I don't know how great that looks in the sense of confidence with management, but if you want to work out with it, I'm not stopping you. And then UC Stars is just on an extremely long contract, and I don't think the Preds have any sort of interest in getting rid of him. Like I said, the team, in my opinion, sorry if you can hear that car on the road. I live right off a busy road, and people love to rip up it in the middle of the night. The team is a step off from being competitive, in my opinion. If you do some retooling in this group, I think we're going to see a different type of team through March and April that could kind of really get things together. Just need some more consistency and depth into the lineup. Winning against Washington, this puts the team in a good place going in the break with just a win and good vibes, and into the trade deadline with a victory, and gives, management a clear picture of what we're seeing. Essentially, I think they'll see what I see of just, hey, we have a good offense here. The defense needs some retooling specifically. And that's kind of what I would be looking at as a GM, essentially. I say that word so much. I am so sorry, y'all. And the team is critical just of how important this game is and knowing what they need to do. Marshall said, hey, we've been fighting for our life for the past month, past few weeks. This is a part of it. We're trying to get in the playoffs. We're making a push as much as we can. And this final game against Washington is very important. It's a quick turnaround, too. Game was played against the Wild in Nashville on Wednesday. This game will be played tonight for y'all. On Thursday in Washington. It's a quick turnaround, back-to-back games. Washington has had a day off after losing 4 to the Flyers in Philly. So, yeah, I think I'm all talked out. I think that's all I have for today for y'all. But those are the big things to take away here as we near towards this break. I got some fun episodes for y'all queued up. Going to be reaching out to you guys and the rest of the Preds community about a mailbag. So if you guys have any questions that you want to hear talked about on the podcast about anything Preds related, feel free to submit them. We'll get that going. And yeah, if you guys are interested in hearing more of my ramblings, I am at Jack G. Williams on Twitter/X. Find all my stuff on the Hockey News Nashville Predators. And then if you guys are just interested in Locked On Predators, LO_Predators on Twitter, and then Facebook and Instagram, we are just Locked On Predators. And hey, if you're interested in the Everydayer Club, ad-free audio, members-only Discord access, $50 a year, $5 a month, all built for the most loyal fans. Check it out. The link is going to be in the show notes here for y'all to check it out if you are interested. But again, thank you guys. Very grateful for you guys. I'm very thankful for y'all. Very grateful, happy to be part of this community. Enjoy these conversations I have with y'all, reading your comments. And I look forward to having another conversation with you guys tomorrow on another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast.